Bowls buddies, hello and welcome to Friday on the channel, and Friday is going to be Comments Corner from now on. You heard it here first, it's back with a bang. Friday, you can hear me blather on about lots of things you've been asking and commenting on, all the rest of it, and I hope you all get involved because it's as interactive as I'm going to get for the time being. Might do some live episodes. Not sure. We'll have to see. They could be very interesting indeed. Guys, thanks for joining me. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. And if you're not already a Bowls buddy and a member of this wonderful community of ours, please hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free of charge. And don't forget to hit the notification bell for notifications of new content on the channel. So welcome. It's a little late, a little rushed. I've been over to Blackpool this morning, managed to qualify at Leighton Institute for the Talbot Trophy. Green not particularly in brilliant nick, but to say it's only been played on since the start of the season, I think they've done really well. Hopefully it will improve as time goes on. Good field. I feel very fortunate to have qualified. Let's just leave it at that, shall we? So I'm going to jump straight in and I'm going to just work my way through some of these. I'm not going to mention every comment that people have left because we'll be here all day, but some of them I can get my teeth into, so let's go. John Howarth, he left this on Wednesday's Talking Bowls episode, so I'm just trying to get comfy. Do you like the old Cantona collar up? I used to do that a lot back in the day. I looked a pillock then as well. John Howarth, much as I applaud Gary Ellis and others' heroic efforts to revive the Waterloo, and much as I understand the place it has in the hearts of many elite bowlers, frankly, if the clock was rewound and a new Wembley venue of bowls was being sought, Blackpool would be very low on the list of preferred locations. Heaton Park, on the other hand, would tick all the boxes: masses of publicly owned space, major sporting city, great transport, accessibility, etc, etc. It may be the end of an era, but it could be the beginning of a new one. And there's another message I think that will go with that from another regular contributor, Paul Hargreaves from Burnley. I might not be popular for saying this, but I don't think of the Waterloo news as bad. I think Gary and the other investors were throwing good money after bad. The Waterloo has been badly let down by the bowling community as attendances have dwindled, and it was just hard to see how that was going to be reversed. Circa 2016, a badly informed Rishi Prasad said he'd heard it was the best finals day crowd for 30 years, even though the terraced areas are quarter full. For as many bowlers who mourn the Greens lost, there will be more who won't notice or care. At least for the former, the glory days will live on and be recalled in Alan Ward's Bowling Legends book and Andy Cairns' video channel. I don't necessarily disagree with you. It's one of those things, the Waterloo. It's a very emotive subject. Going back to the first comment, the reason why the Waterloo and the Talbot especially has a big heart and is the main focal point for Crying Green Bowls is because those were the big two competitions when there was no other sorts of bowling like that. There was no other big sweepstakes. Along came the Talbot in the late 19th century and then the Waterloo in the early 20th century, and those were the big two comps that everybody wanted to be in, and people had different lives back then. People did go to Blackpool for a week's holiday and it would be centred around going to watch the final of the Talbot or the final of the Waterloo. Wakes weeks coincided with those things, and I don't disagree with, Blackpool isn't a good venue, not for the majority of the Crying Green Bowls world, but I'll try and put it this way. When I was driving over this morning, I got to the outskirts of Blackpool and I felt that little tingle that I used to get when I went to the Waterloo, when I went to the Breaks, when I went to Leighton Institute, when I went to all these wonderful venues that are sadly disappearing. And when I pulled up at Leighton and opened the car door and I could hear the seagulls, lots of memories came flooding back for me. And Blackpool, it's a place where you can go, You've got the bowls on the Saturday. You might go over the night before. You might stay over. You have a good time. It's not just a bowls competition. It's an event, and it's an event for your life. You're enjoying yourself. Now, being to Heaton Park, yes, ticks a lot of boxes, but it lacks a lot of things. The infrastructure of the club isn't right. If you got 2,000 Crown Green Bowls fanatics descending on the place, they wouldn't cope. Simple as that. There'd have to be other things in place. There's no stands. It's open space. I don't know what would happen. It's not in the part of the park that people come to first, if you catch me. You're actually going to go a long way around the park and go in the St Margaret's something entrance, St Margaret's Road entrance there. I think there is a tram link, but there's no hotels locally. It's a bus ride into the centre of Manchester. From that regards, it's not ideal, and it lacks something that the Waterloo had in spades, and that's history. Talking to a few of the bowlers today, all expressing the same. We feel the same. We're absolutely gutted that it's going, but we totally understand why it's not going ahead. It's not being said. It's not financially worth it. Totally understand that. You're not suddenly going to get 3,000-4,000 bowlers going through the door to watch the bowls at the Waterloo. So financially it makes no sense whatsoever. So yeah, there is an opportunity for a new venue to take over the Wembley of Crown Green Bowls. But it's going to have to make up for a lot of history that nowhere else really has. I remember when I worked in industry, and I used to speak to a lot of people from all over the country and all over Europe, and sometimes you get chatting after a meeting or whatever, and say, oh, what do you do? What do you do? Do you play golf? Are you a runner? Football? What do you do? And I say, oh, I'm a Crown Green bowler. And nearly everybody that I've ever spoken to who's asked me about my other interests, and when I've said Crown Green Bowl, they've always known about the Waterloo. They knew that was the biggest competition in the game. They knew where the Waterloo was. They knew it used to be on television. We don't have that anymore. It was the same with I've been to play in the Talbot Trophy today. The Talbot disappeared 60 years ago. Ish. But yet we're still playing a trophy in its memory as a venue, because that's how much it meant to the game, to the sport. So yeah, I don't disagree with either of those comments, and I do think there is an opportunity now for a new venue to spring up and take the mantle on. Will it be Heaton Park? Personally, I'd like it to be. It's only a bus ride away from me, but I think there's a lot of things missing, and I don't think it'll be held in the same regard as a few other places I could name. But I won't at the moment because I don't want to be too negative. This was a nice this was a nice message from last Friday's comment corner. Lewis Evans: I'm new to the game and your weekly blog is helpful to me and others. Your tutorial on left-handers was a godsend. Thank you. No more sending my balls the wrong way. Keep up the good work on promoting the game. Fantastic, Lewis. Welcome to Crown Green Bowls. It is a wonderful, wonderful game. Wonderful sport. This is quite a good topic actually. Kevin Rayner. This was left on my AC's County Roundup. How do players get picked to play for county? I just wondered, does each county have their own thing? Is it form or comps won, or is it face fits or experience? Well, Kevin, it's a very tricky one who's picking a county side. You can't do right for doing wrong most of the time. A lot of counties, the teams may arguably pick themselves. There might be 16 players who are absolutely dead certs, and they are the 16 best players in their county, and it's usually the last 8 or so that are difficult to select. And what I used to look for players who had a good competition record, who knew the green we were picking, who used to play there, things like that, and locals who were on form. Yorkshire used to get it absolutely spot on year after year. They'd have a 12-man team at a venue in Huddersfield or wherever, and there'd be 8 of the players who were household names in the game, and then the other 4, you've probably never heard of them, but they were ex-Homesters, or they played in where, you know, in the league where that green was used, and they were the ones you didn't want to come up against. They were absolute nightmares. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. I've said this before. I got chastised for it when I said it before. 2/3 of a team will probably pick themselves, and it's the last 8, and then you're sort of picking 8 from maybe 50 bowlers in some cases, and the difference between them is negligible. So how do you go about picking it? And if you're picking people who you know, you get accused of nepotism or whatever, or being in a clique or whatever, and it's so difficult. And I've seen lots of messages on Facebook where people want the selection process to be open and transparent and things like that. Well, to be honest, if you've got people picking a team, it's up to them how they pick the team. To try and insist that they have to pick certain players because they've done X, Y, Z. No. If people are willing to put their necks on the chopping block and be a county selector, they should be able to pick it how they want, unless the county already has a selection policy in place. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. At North Lancs there's been times when players, household names, who have won nearly everything in the game, have had a bad run. They might have lost 5 games on the bounce, and people are screaming for them to be left out, but yet they've won a massive competition the previous month or whatever. How do you leave them out to bring in somebody who may have never played a county game before? And it's when all's said and done, playing a county game is totally different to playing a league game, to playing in a competition, to even playing in federation. Or the parks. No offence to anyone that I play in the federation, I love it, but it's not the same as playing in a proper full county game. So it's difficult is the main thing you need to take away. And I think certain counties do have different policies. Last time I was involved with selection, it was a 5-man committee, home team manager and captain, away team manager and captain, and maybe somebody from, I think Hugh Hornby did it for us as secretary. So I think it was 5-man or 7-man. So there's always, if it went to a vote, there'd usually be a clear choice. And I don't know if there's a right way or a wrong way. You'd be better asking somebody that's selected a side who's won the county championship. I know I haven't, not even been close. I've been involved a little bit at Manchester, but I wasn't officially on the selection committee. I think there's a lot to be said for asking the older players, asking the players who have played a few times for the county, because they can tend to pick out the sort of attributes that a good county player needs, and there's no way of trialling it. I know in the past people have gone on for like having a reserve county or a youth county, but whatever you do, it'll never replicate exactly the pressures, the stresses, all that side of it with the county team. It's very, very difficult. I think if you ask in North Lancs, if you ask some people, they'd say it's just a massive clique, which I totally disagree with. I'm not involved with selection, by the way. but I have asked a few questions of them. They've been more than willing to answer them, and I think what we're doing in North Lancs now is really good and really positive. And I know the other counties that struggle with having, you know, two significant areas where the county's split down the middle. You know, it's hard, it's difficult to please everyone. All you can do is try. And as a player who may not have been picked, what you have to do is make sure that they can't overlook you again. Go and win a comp, go and win your league averages, be banging on the door saying you need to pick me. That's what I got told when I was 17, when I was junior merit winner for North Lancs, and I asked the question, how do I get into the senior team? I was already winning adult competitions by this point. They said, keep winning, because if you keep winning we can't ignore you, and that's the way you have to be. If you want to play for the county, go out, win some competitions. That's my advice for you. Right, back to this. On counties again. John Howarth again. Why aren't county and federation matches advertised outside the bowling community? I only knew about them through you, but as great as your sessions are, they're unlikely to be watched by non-bowlers who we desperately need to join our sport. And Keith Allen said something along the similar lines. He emailed secretaries of 2 clubs that were hosting games, asking if he could attend, asking for further information, etc. Still waiting for replies 48 hours after the matches. It's a difficult one, because how do you get people interested if they don't know about it? And it goes back to the old television argument. People don't see it, they're not going to play it. But county games, it's just sort of left to bowlers, families of the players, officials and whatever to make up the main bulk of the crowd, and then obviously those who do take an interest in county bowls. How many people will go and watch a county match? I would say not many, but if you could get 1 or 2 people every game, that would be fantastic. And there's no reason why it can't be advertised in newspapers, on Facebook, on wherever. Just takes a little bit of effort and a bit of time, and I think that's where the problem lies. Now then, I had a couple of emails, so I'd like to go through these as well, because they were pretty good from them. Sorry, I haven't got my iPad anymore. Now I've finished at school, they've took it back off me, so I'm just on my phone, unfortunately. So Anthony Lewin, young lad from over in Merseyside, asking me about the barracking that was taking place in county games. Do you think it needs to be calmed down, barracking of players? Some of it was funny with the banter flying back and forth. Yeah, and if you're not the butt of that particular bit of barracking, I'm sure it's hilarious. But my views are pretty pretty clear. I think, honestly, I think some of the abuse, and it is abuse, and it's bullying that goes on at county games, is absolutely obscene. I think I told you the last county game I played in Shropshire, my late wife got abused. She got called a bitch, and she was marking a card. So if you can be abused marking a card at a county game, anything can happen. For me, you should be. It's about supporting your man, shouting positive things for your man, not negative things against his opponent. But that seems to be the way it is now, and fishing rods get taken and stuff like that. Don't get me going. I just think it's all a bit ridiculous, really. If those are the lengths you have to go to ensure that your team wins a county match. My rule of thumb is, if you wouldn't say it to a stranger in a pub on a Saturday night, don't say it round the bowling green. Because one day someone will turn around and will lamp somebody, and it'll kick off, and it will happen, no doubt about it, because every year it seems to get more and more nearer the knuckle. So that was my views on that. And then there was one more. Where's it gone? Oh no. I think it could have been this. No, it wasn't. That was Eric. He was asking me. Oh, it's about Paul Hargreaves again. Just asking me, he was asking me about one of my tutorials about using lighter woods on wet heavy greens, and he said I practiced really well making sure I could reach the corners. Unfortunately I wasn't on until the last block. My arm felt very cold and I was 7-1 down after 5 ends. Luckily it got better and I managed to win. Do you have any tips about getting your bowling arm loose again? Well, it's really simple. It's just like any athlete, any sportsman. We need to warm up, and my advice is keep warm, put a coat on, even if you feel warm enough. Just make sure you've got a gilet or something, keep the joints warm, and then 5-10 minutes before you're due to go, just a few loosening exercise, just getting the old arm rotor cuff going and all that nonsense. And that's all you can do. Just do a few warm-up exercises, do a few practice swings, and hopefully they'll just loosen your arm up from M1. I did put something else extra in the reply to him. I'm not sure if I should tell you, but because it might start a wave of this happening. But if you really are struggling when you go on and you're loose and you need a loosener or a practice end or a practice chuck, you could always sort of accidentally send your jack in somebody else's way. Block up, get it back. I could never condone such an action, but that could be done if you so needed to warm your arm up. I'm going to leave it there before I get into any trouble, because I'm sure there'll be somebody saying you can't do that against the mills. Well, it's not actually, but it might be against the spirit of the game. But yeah, so I'm going to leave it there. The weekend is upon us. Don't forget, there's plenty of bowling going on this weekend. I think there's is there a football match on this week? Sunday possibly? Not sure, can't just remember. Come on England, it's coming home. So enjoy whatever you do this weekend. Enjoy the bowling if you're going and playing or watching or whatever. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the football, and I'll do something on Monday. Might do a Bowlers World Archive. I haven't done one of those for a bit, so hopefully see you then. So I'll say bye for now. Stay safe. See you next week.